going on, Cuse Nation? Welcome to yet another edition of Orange Heat. My name Giovanni Heater, as always, and I want to thank you for joining me. What a time to be a Syracuse Orange fan. The basketball team on a big 2-game win streak with blowout victories, and the Syracuse Orange football team capping off a 10-win season in dramatic fashion with a Camping World Bowl championship. Syracuse defeated West Virginia 34-18 last Friday night in the Camping World Bowl in Orlando, Florida. This was a huge game for Syracuse. If you're talking about a 9-win season versus a 10-win season, there's a dramatic difference there. 9 wins is a regular middle-of-the-pack ranked football team, but 10 wins is that sets you over the hump. That separates you from being a good team to a great team. And that sets you from being a team that's contending for a conference championship. That sets you from being one of the leaders. And that sets you from being a team. You got to think the college football playoff teams are at about 12 wins. So you're almost there. You're going towards from being a good program to an elite program between that 9 and 10 win mark. So this was a really big stepping stone for the Syracuse Orange. And you got to think, I know this is a West Virginia team who did not have Will Grier starting quarterback. They did not have a few of their big-name receivers, and they also didn't have one of their star offensive linemen all sitting out due to either injury or the offensive linemen and Will Grier due to NFL draft situations. But this is still one of the best defenses in the Big 12. West Virginia had all of their defenders healthy, all of them playing, and they are one of the best defenses in the Big 12, and we tore them apart for 34 points. That's saying something big. Looking at a quick recap of the game, I know all of you watched it, but Eric Dungey, clearly the MVP. He went 21 for 30 passing, 303 yards through the air, 22 rushing yards on the ground, and 1 touchdown. So a big game out of Eric Dungey. His farewell from Syracuse, I know it broke a lot of our hearts. He was actually very emotional in his post-game press conference, and he had me right there with him. I love Dungey, and it was jerking my tears a little bit there. Mo Neal led the team in rushing with 42 yards, and he also had 42 yards receiving. That was in part to that big Eric Dungey-like play we saw where he kind of scrambled around, went to the right side, then to the left side. Then as he's thrown, he throws an errant pass. Kind of a lot of people said he shouldn't have thrown it to Mo Neal, and Mo Neal was able to make something happen for a big game there. So that was in a big part of his 42 receiving yards. Dante Strickland got some constructive carries in his farewell game from Syracuse. He is a senior. 28 yards on the day for him. Jamal Custis had a nice outgoing here today. 80 yards in his big senior moment there. But I think the biggest thing in this game was us being able to see the future. That was the biggest thing. You had players like Abdul Adams coming in, just 19 yards, but 2 big touchdowns. You had Jarvian Howard with a touchdown. You had Tristan Jackson. He's another transfer, just like Abdul. Abdul coming from Oklahoma, and Tristan Jackson coming from Michigan State. And these guys aren't bums. They were constructive big players at their programs. They left for their own personal reasons. But Tristan Jackson, 3 receptions for 27 yards and a touchdown. And that touchdown was a legit grab. It was a back shoulder grab there. Great ball thrown by Eric Dungey, but Jackson had to fight for that one. And it was a really promising and hopeful grab looking towards next season. Our defense played really well, limiting Jack Allison and their big name wide receiver there, Stills. They struggled a little bit. Allison still put up well over 200 yards, so he was good. The thing that surprised me there, I just want to mention, he is very small. He's tall, but he's small. He's so skinny. He looked like Pascal Chukwu out there in pads, to be quite honest. But we really we pursued to lock off Stills. We knew that was going to be their go-to. And we still pressured Allison. We were able to pressure him without players like McKinley Williams, without Alton Robinson playing in this game. Antoine Cordy didn't play. So our defense performed really well for not being out there. Andre Cisco led the team in tackles with 9. Kenneth Ruff and Chris Slayton, as well as Kendall Coleman, stepped up big on the defensive line. They were able to create some sacks. They were able to pressure Allison a lot more than what we thought. You ought to also think about Lowe came in for them at quarterback a little bit when Allison was struggling. and we were able to lock him off as well. Now, talking about quick, because I wanted to wrap that whole situation of the game up kind of quickly, because I want to talk a little bit about the future. This is a game that started out slow. It was a really nitty-gritty, back-and-forth defensive battle. Nobody scored for the first couple possessions of the ball game, and it was looking a little bit stagnant at first. Dungey struggled a little bit. He threw 2 interceptions, and then all of a sudden the fourth quarter clicked, and I don't know what exactly clicked, but it certainly worked out in our favor. We've done that consistently through the year. We've been able to take over games and turn them into our own and take advantage of opportunities, and we did just that, taking advantage of turnovers, taking advantage of the opportunities in the red zone, and putting up points effectively. Andre Schmidt, automatic once again. Can't say enough about him. Didn't miss a single field goal or extra point. He was really good. Now, this isn't a game where we put up a ton of points, but 34 was just enough, and our defense held them to 18. I know everyone's going to say this would be a different game with Will Grier, and you can't deny that. This would be a completely different football game. And it's hard to say, would Syracuse win? Would it be? I don't think the score would be the same. But I will say this. I don't think there's any way to tell if Syracuse would have won or lost this football game. Because here's why. Say Grier comes out and they start slinging early and they're beating us bad early. We're down 14 or something like that. Syracuse isn't a team that's just going to go away. Eric Dungey's not going to go away. So there's always a comeback in the making. There's always hope. There's always everything. So I don't think it would have been the same outcome. The score would have been different. I think Syracuse still would have won the game, in my opinion. I think it would have been a little bit more of a competitive game down the stretch, and I think it would have been a lot more high scoring. Will Grier offers a lot more. I think it would have pushed us. We would have felt more pressure later on in the game to score more points. And throughout the whole game, really, we would have felt more pressure to score. And that really didn't happen too much. Allison, really, we didn't feel too threatened by them. And it kind of showed out there. So, hard to say. West Virginia we held their running game to a minimal, which was really big, and we got our running game going a little bit. So that was really huge. And in this game, we're going to talk about our flames of the game. We're going to drop them right here. Flames of the game. First of all, offensively, you got to go with number 2, Eric Dungey in his farewell game. There's no one else I could give it to. He's been spectacular throughout his entire career. It's so sad to see him go, and it's crazy to think he had so many records broken. He ended up breaking one of his last records here in this game, Ryan Nassib's record. I believe it was total offensive passing yards, and he broke that off tonight in his last game. And it's hard to believe that he only played like 3 seasons if you add it all up. If you add up all the injuries and everything, you're talking more like 4 whole seasons, and he lost an entire season. If you would have had that, think about what he would have been able to do. Would have been insane career numbers if you added that all up. It would have been unbelievable to even think about. But Eric Dungey capping off an amazing career. We love him, and I almost feel bad for all the naysaying we did back with the whole UNC game and the Tommy DeVito situation, but he certainly proved us wrong. He proved that this is his team, and I'm really excited to see him pass that torch. You could just see it happening. He was passing that torch. And this whole team's bought in, and this whole team's really excited. They were singing West Virginia's song in the locker room, and they were all really emotional. They were all excited at the celebration, the trophy ceremony and everything. And I do want to throw this in there. Quint Kesnick played goalie for John Hopkins lacrosse, and obviously Syracuse lacrosse certainly did damage on them back in the 80s when Kesnick was in goal, with players like the Gates and everything like that. And he hates Syracuse. It's clear when he does it. He just hates Syracuse when he does lacrosse, when he does football, doesn't matter. And they made him put on one of the Camping World Bowl champions hats right on Quint Kesnick. So that was kind of really cool to see. I enjoyed that because you could tell he was suffering putting that on. Now, talking about the flame of the game for the defense, I'm going to give this flame of the game to Andre Cisco. There were a lot of players up for this for me. There was Keelan Whitner. There was Ryan Guthrie. There was a lot of names. Chris Slayton was in there. Kendall Coleman was in there. But I'm going to give it to Andre Cisco. He led the team in tackles, and the reason I'm giving it to him is because he showed what the future is going to be like all season. He showed everything, and I'm going to give a whole season wrap-up right here. First of all, You started the season Western Michigan on the road. A lot of people are against you. Western Michigan was a little bit favored in this ball game. And we came out, we dominated that football game. I don't care how close the score was, we dominated that football game flat out. Okay? We dominated that football game. Then Wagner, clear domination, blowout victory at the Dome, capping off 60-plus points. Then you had Florida State. Doubters there. Is Florida State that good of a program this year? No. But there were doubters, and we came out, and we won that game in huge fashion, blowing them out. And that was a huge win for this program. Then UConn needed to step up, needed to prove that you can be dominant, and we dominated them. Then Clemson, toughest situation arguably ever in the last couple stretches here, with all that we've worked up to be, everything building up in that game, on the road, in Death Valley. Now, I know we didn't come away with a victory, but did we fight like one of the best football teams in the country? We led them for most of the game. We consistently put the quarterback on his back, played our game. We didn't adjust. We played them to our game, and we got beat down the stretch. But that was a huge performance out of us and a huge confidence booster. And nationally, it really opened up some eyes. Then you go to Pitt. You have a struggling game. Okay, the weather was a factor, and the delay and everything, and you lose that game in overtime. It's a heartbreaker. And you let Clemson beat you twice. And everything Baber said we can't do, we didn't do. Then you come out in the next game, and you dominate early, but you start to fall apart a little bit. But you're able to build yourself back up. And that was part into leadership, okay? Eric Dungy prepared Tommy DeVito. And Tommy DeVito's been in this whole program for the last 2 years, okay? And he almost, you got to look at it like a job shadow, almost. And Tommy DeVito came into this game, and he took it over. He just took it over, said, this is my game, and he won us that game. Then there was speculation. He went through a quarterback controversy going into the next week against North Carolina State. Came out, dominated that game early. Eric Dungy took his team back, so to speak. And then you had the big win late there. Then you go to Wake Forest. Is this a tough road game? Yes. Can they perform? Yes. That's exactly what they did. They dominated them. Then they dominated Louisville. Can you notice that I keep saying dominate? Because we were a dominant football team this season. Then Notre Dame. Okay, you had a lapse. And it's your first hiccup pretty much all season, the biggest hiccup, where you weren't in a game. Okay, and Eric Dungy goes out injured. As I've said before, there's no way you can convince me that game's going to be the same. And you fall back a little bit. And then you need a big bounce back on the road in order to really solidify you're still a good team and lock up second place in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And they come out and they dominate against Boston College. And there it is again, the word dominate, that's exactly what they did. They obliterated Boston College, plain and simple. In physicality, they outplayed them. They outmatched them. Down the stretch, they beat them. Everything, passing game, running game, physicality, just every notion of that football game, we dominated. And then you had the speculations with Will Grier. We were ready for any challenge. Where Will Grier or not, we were ready. And we came out and we dominated a West Virginia football team late down the stretch in this game. So, again, if I'm going to pick one word to symbolize the entire season, it's three things. Actually, I'm going to go with mottos here. It's belief without evidence, going early on in the season, going into situations like Clemson, going into situations like Notre Dame and everything. This fan base was still alive. It's strength. And it's family. It's Owana, just like Dino Babers says all the time. And the last one, domination. Because that's what we did game in and game out. We never felt like an underdog. We always felt like we were in every game to win it. And it was just something really special. You guys got to think. This is the first time in my life we've been good at football, really. You could talk about the Doug Marrone era. And it's kind of amazing to think that I've been around since 2003. And we haven't been this in the mix in that long. And this is really fun for me to see. It's really fun for me to just be a part of because it's really exciting and the fan base is excited. And it's like, we're not just a basketball school anymore, kind of, which is really cool, but it's all about consistency. You have to do this year in and year out. This can't be a fluke. And we're going to see what happens down the stretch. A big shout out, though, to really all the Syracuse fans in this game. It was huge. Everybody showed up. There was a big pep rally. That crowd was like 70-30 Syracuse. And West Virginia fans were mad. They couldn't believe they were playing us. They couldn't believe they weren't playing Washington State in the Alamo Bowl. Instead, they were mad they were in the Camping World Bowl. But our fans showed up, and it helps because we showed that we can be in the mix, in the conversation for some bigger bowl games, because that's something that committees look at. Are the fans going to show up? Are they going to make money, really, is what it comes down to. And we showed that we can do that. So that was really, really exciting and really good to see. I wanted to get down there. I couldn't get down there, but I know if I could have, I would have. So that was huge to see. And I think that 10 wins this season is just huge for the culture. It's huge for recruiting. That's when you build a culture. The biggest thing to fix a program is winning. Winning will fix everything. Every little problem, winning will fix. And winning will create chemistry, and winning will help with recruiting, and it'll get guys to want to come here. And that's absolutely huge. Now, talking about next year, what's going to happen with players that are leaving? Well, Chris Slayton's going to go to the NFL, I think. I think he has the size to do it, and I think that he's going to be a force in the NFL. Now, Alton Robinson, 3 years removed from college, people are saying he could potentially leave. I don't think so. I think that he weighs about 230 right now, like a little over 230, about 235. And he has the potential to go to the NFL with his skill set. But I think you stay at Syracuse one more year. We have some of the best strength and conditioning staff in the nation. You get a little bit bigger. You hit that 250 mark. And then you really make a name for yourself. Go a little bit higher in the draft next year and do big things. So I think you're going to see him back in Syracuse. But Chris Slayton, I think with his size, that's going to get him there. At least get him some looks early on. Now, everyone's wondering, Eric Dungey. What's Eric Dungey going to do? Well, I'm never going to doubt this man again, okay? Because he's proven the entire country, opportunity in and opportunity out, that he is unstoppable, okay? You can't underestimate this kid. He'll take any challenge and he'll take advantage of it, and he'll prove you wrong day in and day out. That's what he does. So people are saying he's not going to get to the NFL, and I believe now he's going to get to the NFL because he's going to have that chip on his shoulder. I believe he has the size. I believe he has the skill set. And here's something out there. I don't think he'll be a quarterback. I think he could be a quarterback. I think he'd be a really good quarterback. But I think injuries really aren't going to affect him. He proved that he went this year without a major injury, and that's huge. Okay? And I think he's going to play something like a tight end or even a running back. Look at Taysom Hill for the New Orleans Saints right now, doing big things, and he's that type of player like Eric Dungey. I think Eric Dungey, you look at Nick Fitzgerald from Mississippi State, you hit the upgrade button, and you have Eric Dungey. And they're saying Mississippi State quarterback Nick Fitzgerald is going to be in the NFL, so Eric Dungey is as well. I'm saying it right now. He is going to be a name in the NFL because that's what he does. He proves people wrong. He's going to prove everybody out there wrong. We have faith in him. It's belief without evidence, guys. It's like Dino Babers says, and that contract extension is huge. He's back. He's home. And now we can settle in. We can get these recruiting classes in, and we can get excited because this culture is brewing up. Looking at next year, some of my biggest things going into next year is this. You're going to have players like Abdul Adams. You're going to have players like Tristan Jackson. And guys, they put in this many numbers in the Camping World Bowl against a good defense. And they were a scout team all season. And what that means, what I mean by that, is all season what they did is since they knew they weren't going to get snaps in the game, they played, I don't know how to explain this. They played the opposing offense. So say we're going into we're playing Clemson. What they do is they study up on Clemson. They learn with the coaches what Clemson's going to do, and they basically play as Clemson. And that's what quarterbacks like Chance Amy did. He probably played what Trevor Lawrence is going to do, and Abdul Adams did what Travis Etienne is going to do. Now, they can't do that at a physical set, but as far as the play calls, the styles, and everything, that's exactly what they did, and they call that a scout team. So now, next season, they're going to be playing Syracuse football, and they're going to be doing their own thing. And Dino Babers said the biggest thing with them is, were they going to be able to keep up with our speed? And they did, and they hadn't played our speed all season. So now when they play our speed all next season, something's going to be so special. Our backfield next year is deadly. You have a senior running back, Speedy and Moneal. That's a 1-2 punch going with Jarvian Howard for power, and Abdul Adams is a mix of those two. We have a deadly backfield next season, and we are going to beat a lot of teams on the ground with that 1-2 punch, and it's going to be something special. It's going to be like a Nick Chubb and a Sony Michel, or the two going for Georgia right now, and it's going to be something special. I'm telling you guys right now. So next year you have Tommy DeVito. Now Tommy DeVito not as good on his legs as an Eric Dungy, not as good on his legs really at all. He can run, but he can't escape pressure, and I don't think he has the IQ or the toughness like Dungy does either. But nonetheless, he's certainly a good player. He's the better passer on this team, in my opinion. If you're talking about precision, if you're talking about accuracy, if you're talking about strength and the deep ball, I think Tommy's got you beat there. He just seems to get the ball into tighter places quicker. The ball just gets to its destination quicker. And he's also more accurate with the deep ball. But the biggest thing with Tommy is going to be the offensive line. We know Tommy can do it, but he's got to be able to stay in the pocket. Can the offensive line hold up? We're losing 3 of our starters. Now, Dino Babers thinks that with the recruits and the men that have been taking a back seat, learning this past season, that we're going to be just fine there, that they're going to be able to step in. So we're going to see what happens there. But we did lose 3 starters. Coda Martin's going to be gone, but Aaron Cervais is going to be back, and we have some other big names that are going to be back there. Now, defensive line. Our defensive line is going to be deadly once again. Chris Slayton, one of the unsung heroes, yes. He is gone, yes. But hopefully Alton will be back, which I think he will. Alton Robinson will be in there. Kendall Coleman is back. McKinley Williams is going to be back in there. We're having some additions on the recruiting board. We have a 4-star defensive end coming in, couple 3 stars. So really, our defensive line should continue to dominate game in and game out. Game in and game out. Now, we're going to have good receivers. You got to look at players like, Custis is gone, but Nykeem Johnson and Taj Harris, I think, were the best receivers on this football team consistently all throughout the season. Then you got Sean Riley's going to be back. He's going to be a little bit older now, a little more mature with his decision-making, and not to mention he's going to be returning kicks and punts as well. Then you're looking at, think about Ed Hendricks. Ed Hendricks was a receiver that got hurt early on in the spring. And he was a receiver that was supposed to play the Taj Harris position, really. And Dino Babers said that he was the best receiver going into this season throughout the spring. And he got hurt, and it hurt us. And think about how big he would have been. Well, guess what? We're going to have him next season, and he's going to be healthy, knock on wood here. So he's going to be really exciting. He's a name nobody really talks about, Ed Hendricks. Remember that going into next year. So a lot of really exciting things. Our schedule eases up a lot. That's a lot of kudos there to athletic director John Wildhat, because he knew we're beating ourselves up with playing in LSU. Then you go on and you play another tough non-conference opponent. Yeah, we got one staple in there, and it's one, Power 5 game. It's on the road at Maryland. Matter of fact, I'm going to go to that game, and I am so pumped to go down there. That's going to be so exciting. I love catching road games. They're a lot of fun. Obviously, I love the dome games as well, but going on the road is kind of something special. You get close with the fan base. There's a lot of cool tailgates that go on and stuff. So you got that. And then you got some cupcakes. You're starting 2 games on the road. People look at that and say, okay, you're starting on the road at, I want to say, Liberty, and then you're going at Maryland, and then you come home in the dome. You're playing a Western Michigan, okay? And then the ACC certainly doesn't ease up at all. Florida State's going to be better this year than they were. Clearly, they're going to get a little bit better. Louisville might improve a little bit. Wake Forest, consistently a decent team. Boston College is good. They're only going to get better. Clemson, obviously a powerhouse. And so we're going to get them at the Dome, and we're going to win that game. So a lot of big things here looking at the schedule next year. You certainly have the capability with the schedule to win another 10 games. Matter of fact, you should. And if you can get over the hump of Clemson, you might be looking at an ACC championship appearance, which is crazy to think about, but I love it. And I can't believe that going into this season, we were going to be okay with 6 wins. And I expected about 6 or 7. I expected finally a bowl in Eric Dungy's last season and everything. But we clearly exceeded expectations above and beyond what we thought was going to happen. And that's the most exciting thing. And it's kind of weird to think about. We were going to be happy with 6, 7 wins. Now we're ecstatic with 10. And now we have to keep it consistent. We have to do this year in and year out. And next year is the biggest test now. almost bigger of a test than this season. I think next year is the biggest test, losing Dungy, seeing what the offensive line can replenish. I saw one of the greatest tweets out there that I think could ever sum up this season, guys. It's not about the rebuild anymore. It's about the reload. Okay, you have the players, you have the program, you've done it. Now you got to reload. You got to bring in more. You got to consistently do it, and that's just something so exciting to do, you know. And I can't say enough how excited I am. I think we're gonna get so much more support, so much more hype in the next season. I think we're gonna start next season ranked, which will be really absolutely huge. And I think too that the fan base is going to be more engaged. You know, you're going to get a bigger turnout at the spring game. You're going to get a bigger turnout at the home opener, especially after 2 weeks of hopefully 2 road wins. And then you're just going to see the fan base more locked in early on. You don't just come off of a 10-win season and start like our fan base did this year. It took a while to fill those seats, and I think you're going to see a sellout. If you go into that Clemson game undefeated, you're going to see a sellout. You're going to see College game day. And it's crazy to think all the attention our fan base is going to get. Fans are going to start thinking they're going to go to the Dome over the fair. They're going to go to the Dome over apple picking. They're going to do these things on a Saturday, and they're going to go to the Dome and support Syracuse football. I know I always do, and I'm excited to see a loud, proud Syracuse Orange fan base. And it's just something to talk about. It's something to mark. The 2018 season, forever a special thing, just a seventh time in program history to have a 10-win season, and it's something big. It's something that hasn't happened in a long time. It's something really exciting. And guys, we're going to beat to death out of recruiting over the offseason. We're going to beat to death Dino Babers, but he's back for more years. Syracuse Orange football is going to be back. We're going to miss it. The offseason stinks, especially once you just won 10 games. And it's almost painstaking, but the future is bright. And it's all thanks to this senior class and the leadership and them building this program. Because they created the belief without evidence. They created the family. Dino Babers' program is instilled. Clearly one of the best coaches I've ever seen in the history of sports, to be quite honest. That sounds ridiculous and biased, but it is. Not everyone can just make a team buy in like we did. And Syracuse just came out and dominated a lot of football games, physically, mentally, and they wanted it, and they played together. You saw Tommy DeVito running down the sideline with Eric Dungy. Just everything's so exciting, and you see the fan base really getting involved. Guys, I want to just end it off by saying thank you, Dino Babers, thank you, the fan base, thank you, Eric Dungy, thank you, all the senior class, thank you to everyone participating, and thank you for those who are coming, who are believing in Syracuse, who are coming as recruits. Big things are to come in Syracuse, New York, as far as football goes, and it's giving us something to root for. It's so exciting. I've almost always loved Syracuse football games more than going to a basketball game. I've always loved football season. And this is just becoming something special. So thank you guys so much. Let's go Orange, baby. Whoa!